So I welcome you to this episode of From the Executive Director's Desk. We are not at my desk, but we are in our food pantry here at Back Bay Mission. And I feel it's just critical to be here today because of the topic I'm going to talk about. So I want to share with you a bit about one thing I've noticed. In every state I've lived, there's always one license plate choice that includes the Golden Rule. And the Golden Rule is something that Jesus said in the Gospel of Matthew. He said, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." So it's kind of like, hey, treat other people how you want to be treated. But there's actually, for me at least, one higher, so to speak, Golden Rule that's called the Platinum Rule. And the Platinum Rule is treat others the way they want to be treated, right? So the emphasis isn't on yourself and how you want to be treated, but it's how the other wants to be treated. So I would say to Kevin, who's behind the camera here, so Kevin, how do you want me to treat you? Or what do you want me to say to you or do for you in a particular situation? So it kind of takes it off of us and really onto the other person, which is, I think, how Jesus really lived his life, and really all religious leaders. And the interesting thing is, and you can Google this if you'd like, but you can Google the Golden Rule and you come up with a kind of a beautiful image that has the golden rules from all of the other faith traditions. And I think the Islamic Golden Rule is very similar to our own. It says, "Not one of you truly believes until you wish for others what you wish for yourself." But I'd still like to emphasize the Platinum Rule. Treat others the way they want to be treated. It's not about how you want to be treated, but it's treating others how they want to be treated. And I think that's really, really important right now as in our world and our culture, we're experiencing a lot of division, a lot of anxiety as we're coming out of COVID and we're coming out of an election and we're experiencing a new administration, and it continues to divide people. It's really important to ask people, what do they want? What do they need? What is it that we can do for them? So I want to share a couple of stories. And these stories are from my experience on a couple of different mission fields. I spent a little over a year in Russia, in Novosibirsk, Siberia, doing mission development for the Lutheran Church before I became United Church of Christ. And the work that we did there were primarily with university students in Academ Gorodak. And we were helping them to establish kind of their faith community, right? Because this was a time when the Iron Curtain had broken and people were free to kind of rediscover faith and religion. And so we were there as Lutheran missionaries helping to establish a faith community among university students, because I had been initially working in campus ministry in the Lutheran tradition. And we had already established a kind of a mix, a really blended worship experience. Then, of course, we had studies and conversations and discipleship. But the blended worship was very much a kind of Orthodox, Russian Orthodox component to it, because that connected these young people back to their roots. But also what they saw on television and they read about was kind of the charismatic movement within the major denominations, especially Lutheran, Episcopalians, and Catholics, were having this kind of movement of expression of spirit, right, and connection to God through spirit, or maybe what the ancient mystics did when they found really deep connections to God and ecstatic relationship with God. And so we had this beautiful, usually a 2 to 3 to 4 hour service of singing and prayer and preaching. And of course the preaching was longer because I would preach in English and then somebody would have to translate in Russian, because Russian is a really difficult language. And what I found out there is kind of the mission board then came in and said, hey, we've translated Lutheran worship, which is a very liturgical order, and about an hour-long service, right? We've translated this into Russian. This is what we want you to use now for the students and for the churches that you're developing. And our perspective was, this isn't what they want, but this is what the mission board wanted out of St. Louis, right? And so we kind of refused, which probably put us in an antagonistic relationship. But that's when I kind of discovered this Platinum Rule, that it's treat others the way they want to be treated, and develop for others what it is they want to develop, right, in their worship experience and their worship space. And so we maintained kind of this mix and actually didn't utilize what the mission board had suggested, which, as I said, kind of put us into a difficult position. But we felt that was the right thing to do. And then I spent some time actually on the Lakota reservation, and this was maybe about 10 years ago, 12 years ago now. I was on the Lakota reservation in South Dakota, where Wounded Knee happened, if you remember. It's the Pine Ridge Reservation. And I was there doing kind of some summer research. It was my sabbatical. I was working with a young group of Lakota high schoolers, because there in the Lakota Nation there was such a high suicide rate, not only among adults but especially among high school youth. And so it's working to talk about and kind of interact and determine, what's the best way to respond to this, and how do we do some interventions with Lakota youth. And kind of what was interesting, what I found out in the time I was there was a mission group that was building bunk beds for individuals in the Lakota Nation, because in the Lakota community, they generally would sleep on their floors, right? And so the missionaries came in, and they've been doing this for a number of years. These missionaries came in and they encouraged mission groups like we have here at Back Bay to build bunk beds and then bring them over to the homes and the trailers of Lakota people so they could sleep on bunk beds, because many times there were 12, 15 people in one space, extended families. And some of the Lakota people expressed that to me, and they said, we don't want the bunk beds, and generally we tear down the bunk beds and we use them for firewood or other purposes, because actually it's our tradition to sleep on the floor, and it's comfortable for all of our families to sleep on the floor. Now, I never did share that with those mission folks, but I remember thinking again about the Platinum Rule. Treat others as they would want to be treated, right? So if they don't want bunk beds, ask them, what is it you need from us? How can we assist you? How can we walk alongside you? And I see that even in my activism work, right? As an activist, and as Kevin shared with our group this morning, making good trouble in the world, is that it's really important for us, if we're in a place where we're advocating for or supporting other people and their causes, is ask them, what is it you need from us? How can we walk alongside you, or how can we walk behind you and support you, rather than saying, this is what we think you need. This is how we're going to tell the stories. Let them tell their story and tell them what we need. Which brings me actually now finally to Back Bay Mission and to our food pantry. So what's really unique here, as far as we know, there's very few food pantries that are client choice. So in other words, when our guests and our friends come into our food pantry who are low income or homeless, they have an opportunity to actually choose the foods that they want, right? Rather than us telling them, hey, this is what you need. Now, of course, it was different during COVID, because during COVID, we actually would give individuals a sack of food that was kind of already prepared, right? Because it was difficult. We didn't want people in this space together because of the spread of COVID. But we allow people to kind of walk around our food pantry and take the foods that speak to them, right? Because we know that everybody has different tastes. Everybody has different foods that they eat and that they enjoy. And so that's one of the unique things here about our food pantry that Kiona and Carl manage and our volunteers manage, is they have an opportunity to come in and take the kind of food that they really enjoy from what we have on our shelves. And of course, we always need more food on our shelves. And I think the other thing that I've noticed about Back Bay that's really unique and beautiful about us as a social service organization is that even with our case managers, our 5 case managers work with the individuals and ask the individuals what they need, what their plan is. Even when it comes to housing, when we provide housing for people who are unsheltered or experiencing homelessness, the case manager will ask the individual, so where would you like to live? Would you rather live in Gulfport? Would you rather live in Biloxi? Would you want to live in D'Iberville? What location works for you? And also, they have an opportunity to see the apartments before they're moved into the apartments. So in essence, they have an opportunity to make choices. And when our case managers are working with individuals and guests that are homeless or living in poverty, or they're working for homeless prevention, They work with the client and with the friend, the homeless individual, unsheltered individual, near homeless individual, to talk about what are their goals. What do they want in their life? How do they want to live their best life? What are their next steps, right? It's not about the case manager saying, this is what you need to do. It's really about the case manager working with the individual. So for me, I think that's what's really unique here at Back Bay Mission, is that it's really about what is it you need? Those are the questions we ask. How can we best serve you? And we really live out that platinum rule. Do unto others as they want done unto them, right? Not so much what do we think others need. And I would say that's a really important concept to really bring into all of our lives, is not so much about us, but about them, or about the other. And considering when you're in relationships, your married relationship, your partner relationship, your friend, your family, your relatives, your children, your husband, your wife, your spouse, it's really important to kind of ask the question, what is it they need? What is it they want? And how can I be there to provide for them? And not in a way that gets like codependent, right? But in a way that really says, I'm going to put your needs first, and not necessarily what I think you need. Because Lord knows, when I've been in relationships or even friendships or with family members, I'm sometimes the first one to say, well, this is what you need to do, right? This is how you need to act. You better do this, you better do that. But instead, sitting down with those people and just saying, what is it you need? What do you think your next move needs to be? What do you think your next step needs to be? What are your goals? What are your aspirations? So really being other-centered rather than just looking at our own needs. So hopefully today, this has given you some insights into Back Bay and the way that we work and the culture that we have here. Hopefully it's given you some insights into your own life, right? And how we live in relationship with others, I think, is critical and key. So thank you for joining me today. Again, I would encourage you to go on our website, peruse our website, find ways that you can give. Consider a mission trip down to Back Bay. Consider giving to Back Bay. We're going to be celebrating 100 years next year. So we're 100 years strong here on the coast of Mississippi, doing some amazing and really beautiful things to really meet people where they're at. Not so much where we're at, right? But setting ourselves aside and meeting the needs of people where they're at. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a great day.